Comic Timing is a proud member of the
Stop screwing it up.
of the Comics Podcast Network.
Bitch. Welcome to episode 202 of Comic Timing, a comics podcast for the average comic book fan from the average comic book fan. Joined in as Brent Casino, rotating panel with guests and myself, Ian Levesine, discuss whatever comes to mind, time after time, here on Comic Timing. We're a little bit more rotating than usual tonight as we bring back an old favorite and discuss a little bit of inside baseball on comics and where we're heading in the world of COVID-19. Here now, Comic Timing. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levesine, and welcome to episode 202 of Comic Timing. Brent is back. What's up, Brent?
You said old favorite. Were you talking about Jamal or Chris?
I'm talking about Jamal. Chris is
What about
rotating.
Chris?
Chris is rotating. Chris is back for this. She's been on like 3 out of the last 4 episodes or something. Like, come on, Chris.
I'm just trying to
That's
pick
just sad.
fights. I love you both.
But that's just like sad because that means you haven't recorded that many episodes because you were still living in the other apartment.
I know.
When you recorded.
I'm 100% aware of that statement. We don't record
Hey,
the
if we
show
can put
enough.
out 2 episodes during a pandemic, I think we're okay.
That's as close as we could possibly get, and you know what? I'm A-okay with that. Brandon's back too. Brando, what up? Brandon, we can now no longer hear you.
Sorry, I had myself muted. It said, hello, my friends. It's good to hear voices that are not people I live with or people I see at the market as I'm trying to dodge touching. Hello.
Yes, it is very nice to hear other voices as well, and it's very nice to hear Jamal's voice, as was alluded to by Mr. Casina.
Hello, people. How are you all?
We are hanging in there. I think that's as good as we could put it. Oh my God, it's been 2 months, man. It's been 2 months of this shit.
I've aged 30 years in 2 months.
I've watched 3 Star Trek shows.
Oh my God.
Wait, which ones?
Well, no, technically I finished original series last fall, but I've watched TNG and DS9, and now I've started Voyager.
Oh my God.
Because I'm in it! I'm in it for the long haul, baby!
My wife's working her way through DS9 as we speak. She's finishing up the first season.
Nice. I've been watching all of Cheers over the last couple of weeks. I'm on almost up to season 7, I think, at this point. So I'm on the first post-Diane season.
I have been watching things that I never thought I would watch. I've been watching a lot of Chinese dramas.
Really?
On Netflix. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Like what type of Chinese dramas?
First one I watched was a series called The Hanson Siblings. And then the one that I just finished was called Once Upon a Time on Liang Mountain. And it's basically like these Chinese kung fu dramas, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of dancing. There's some music involved, you know.
Lots of reading.
Lots of reading. Lots and lots of reading. And
It basically sounds like the Chinese equivalent to Bollywood.
pretty much. But, you know, in my house, there's a fight for the big television that I usually lose. So I take my shots where I can. And since Corinne and Katie are usually watching everything else, I have to pick something that nobody else is going to watch because I'm probably like half watching whatever it is they're watching.
Fair enough. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of YouTube on my off time, and like Dark Side of the Ring has been my latest obsession. I've just been running through that on Vice lately.
Yeah, I just finished watching the Road Warriors episode.
Yeah, that was depressing.
It was very depressing. They're all depressing, but
Yeah.
Because wrestling sucks out your soul. Thanks, Vince McMahon.
Please. No, the one before that with what was it, the UWF? That one was its own level of craziness. Mr. I'm going to do all the cocaine in the world and wind up killing myself in the process. Good times.
yeah, you start with Chris Benoit and just work your way down from there.
Wow, is that even possible?
It is. It is actually.
Wow.
They found a way, man. They found a way. They did Snuka this season too. So like the whole yes, he did kill that woman, but he never wound up actually going to jail for it.
Yeah, no, the next one up in the queue is the Dino Bravo episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're gonna like that one too.
You guys have been watching TV. I've been falling back and playing a dead MMO. So hooray!
Oh, I've been playing a farm simulator. It's called Animal Crossing. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh no! I've never heard it before. Can you explain it to me, please, in detail?
Yes. There.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Mm-hmm. That basically sums it up.
Yeah, there's an entire sub group of comics pros who are just talking Animal Crossing like all day.
Do you have any strawberries?
Day.
You have any strawberries? I get some spiders.
I do not play Animal Crossing. I do not play any video games, actually.
I don't play a lot of video games, but the ones I have been playing during this pandemic have been Animal Crossing, Just Dance, and Let's Sing.
Let's Sing?
Let's Sing is basically the karaoke version of Just Dance.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm strangely, the Broadway kid in me is good with that.
Yeah, I the best part about it is that you don't even need a USB microphone anymore. There's actually an app you can download on your phone that connects wirelessly to the game.
Because of course there is.
Yeah, so you basically just use your phone as the microphone.
You can come down and play those 2 games with Olivia anytime.
Yeah.
You just come down, me and Amanda will leave, we'll put Noah to bed, and you guys have fun. And we'll just tuck her in when we get back from our date. Sounds like a great time.
Great. Sounds like a plan. I'm not coming to Florida anytime soon.
Ian.
Is that some kind of Ian's not a real gamer snark?
No.
No, that
Olivia
was
loves Just Dance.
Yeah.
We have it on the Xbox.
Exactly.
And she'd probably like Just Sing, too, if she could read. We're getting there, but she's not quite there.
Tonight we played Mario Kart with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and every time, even though the 3-year-old lost every single time, every time the game ended, he would go, I won, because he passed the finish line, and then he would be like, no, and then his father would be like, no, actually Ian won, and he would be like, oh man.
Aww.
Yeah,
It's so adorable.
I tried to teach Olivia Sonic Racing on the Xbox or something,
no.
and she did not get the hang of it. I was like, might have to wait a little bit longer.
Just a smidgen.
Just wait until Olivia gets old enough and she can be like Katie and spend all of her time playing Roblox and flight simulators.
I approve, man. That's some heavy shit right there.
Yeah, but it's a problem when she's supposed to be doing her Zoom classroom and she's playing Roblox at the same time.
Yeah, that's
Dude,
fair.
it's a weird time. School is not going to matter.
Don't tell me that.
It's not even going to be open in the fall.
Oh,
You can't
listen. Listen. I've already. I tell you guys this in the spirit in which it is given. My mother works for the health department.
Yeah.
I hear all the horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
We are in this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I am not setting foot in a restaurant or a movie theater or anything until there is a vaccine protocol.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And
Don't tell my wife that because she's opening back up next week.
Well, keep that mask on at all times. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's her plan. She ordered some gloves. She's got a face shield as well.
No, that's good. As long as she's taking the precautions, that's fine. But it's the other people that, I mean, we've even here, because I get up early and I go out late to walk the dog. And every so often, you'll see somebody without a mask coughing.
Yeah.
And I got to take a wide berth because Corinne already had it.
I hear...
We're waiting for the results from her antibody test.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, she had it, and it was still lingering for like a month afterwards.
Yeah,
So she's just now, within the last week or so, almost 100%.
I'm 95% certain that both my mother and her husband had it at one point. just because they had all the symptoms, and luckily it came and went pretty quickly for them. But they had it lingering for at least 2 to 3 weeks. But it's said and done at this point. So that is what it is. I mean, you did sort of segue into some of the things that I was going to be asking you off the top of the boat here, Jamal, and that's
right.
I mean, as a comics professional, I mean, how have you been dealing with the changes of COVID-19 and I mean in the business so far? I mean, obviously, what you're working on has probably changed at least a little bit. Like what does the average comic book artist do, and you're more than average in this sort of scenario?
Well, I think it really depends on the company, actually, more than anything. I mean, for me, it's a little bit different because both of my projects are either, creator-owned, self-financed,
right, or,
in the case of Ahoy, they bank everything before books are released.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll have, I'm going to get the script for the second part of The Wrong Earth. Probably this weekend. I got the one page so far just to kind of tease where things are going.
Right.
And then I just finished the pencils for White almost a little over a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it hasn't really been too much of a disruption for me in terms of work. I know other people who when the word started getting out that people were getting furloughed from Marvel, got the pencils down, phone call that, ancillary projects were, if not being shelved, at least postponed for the time being.
Right.
I think a lot of that was the companies themselves trying to figure out how they were going to get books out, because Diamond having to shut down completely was a blow.
Oh yeah,
that was really done with very little notice.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean, that was. I mean, it kind of just happened in a sweep, because they had been saying for a while that they were going to try to stay open, and just all of a sudden it's nope, can't do it.
Well, I think initially part of it was because a lot of the printers in Canada had to shut down, and if you're printing domestically, you're either printing through Transcontinental, which is the big industry. Everybody prints their books on the same run,
right,
through Transcontinental, for example.
Yeah.
So when Transcontinental had to shut down, when they were dealing with the pandemic in the early days back in March, that was one thing. But then you turn around, you come to find out that a lot of these retailers basically left Diamond hanging, and we already knew that Diamond was operating on basically a shoestring budget as it was.
Oh sure.
We just didn't realize that they had that little cash on hand, which was surprising to me considering all the assets that Jeppy has.
Right. I mean, in some ways it says just how little money the comic book industry has been making over these, last few years. I mean, obviously, we see stories about, how Marvel and DC's numbers had actually been going up over the last few years, but that only does so much for an industry that on the regular is kind of in a struggle.
Well, I mean, it really depends on which portion of the industry you're talking about.
Right.
Diamond's main business model is catering to the direct market, but that's not the market that's growing. The market that's growing is bookstores.
Yes.
So the brick and mortar bookstores are actually doing better, and I think they're still delivering product.
Mm-hmm.
Diamond became a monopoly out of necessity, not out of want.
Right.
Basically, they were literally the last man standing after the consolidation. After DC and Marvel went, after DC went exclusive originally, and then Marvel bought Heroes World, and then Heroes World and Capital both kind of they're dissolved at the same time, and it only left Diamond as the one company that was really willing to cater strictly to the direct market.
Right. Yeah.
And it worked for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
when they needed it to, but the industry has changed. What the buying habits of younger readers especially has changed colossally. So I think that, going forward, we're all going to have to adjust to the reality that it isn't just about comic shops anymore, and it isn't just about superhero comics anymore.
Right. Yeah. And Chris, I mean, you touched on some of that in your article that you put out, near the beginning of this pandemic for Engadget on how, what digital was doing for the comic book industry and what it wasn't doing, distribution wise and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, first off, I wanted to say you're talking about how the comic industry has been operating on these thin margins the past few years, but it's not just the comic book industry. A lot of different corporate concerns have been like, oh no, we have no money, because they just dump their money into things like stock buybacks instead of putting it away for a rainy day, this is the rainiest of days they will ever have.
Right.
But I mean, I do feel like, my whole piece was basically talking about how there's just this loyalty to comic shops. So they'll do anything to keep from undercutting the comic shops, which is why, years ago, do they still do digital codes?
Yeah.
No, they stopped. Who does Marvel stopped doing the digital codes?
I think Marvel still does, last I checked. Although I know that they're shutting down their quote unquote Marvel digital store, which never really made much sense to me in the first place because it was basically just feeding back in the Comixology anyway. So I still buy digital codes off of Reddit for recent books. So unless that's a recent change, they do still offer that for most of their titles.
They don't. They really don't advertise it then.
They sure as hell don't.
Well, it definitely goes into what I mentioned, is just that there's this loyalty to comic shops, and it's kept the industry from moving forward. Because you look at every other industry, you look at bookstores were just slaughtered by Amazon, and they found a new path forward. And the music industry didn't give a shit about music stores. And the thing is, as the consumer, we're kind of fine with that. But with comic shops, there's just this emotional attachment to them, and anything that disrupts the status quo is basically like people are throwing holy water and garlic at it because it's like the worst thing in the world.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I got into a conversation with somebody on Twitter. His whole thing was, it's my place. It's where I go to be social with people. And I was making the argument that, it's fine that you feel that way, but it's still a business.
Right. It's not the playground,
right.
You can't go in there and just chat and not buy anything and expect them to stay in business.
Yeah, that's funny, Ian, that you say that, because years ago I used to write a column for the comic book e-mag, and I mentioned how I felt, this is me at 20 years old being all like, comic shops should really be more like independent bookstores and have chairs and like reading events, and like somebody emailed me to just be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, they insulted me a little bit, like, you dumb bitch kind of thing. Like, comic shops aren't social things. I'm in business, to make money. So I just think it's really funny to hear someone say, oh, it's my social gathering place. Because, I mean, speaking as like a femme-bodied person, it's not always that for me. I have had shit thrown at me, not as much as women in other towns. I mean, we're in New York. We're very lucky to have such a nice comics community, but it's never been the place I want to go to meet other geeks, because there's always the bad element, the creeper, or that. Ian, do you remember that weirdo guy at Midtown Comics who used to like take every single issue off the shelf?
Oh, I sure as hell do, because he is Raph's most least liked person in the world. Because basically he would be there for what amounted to about 4 hours every Wednesday, and he would just pick the rack. He would go through every single one until he found the perfect issue he was looking for, and then they'd have to restock everything because he'd wind up messing up the order almost every single time. He had to be yelled at, and I think at one point he was even banned from Midtown because he was basically, messing with their business. Because
they better do that next month with COVID.
Oh my God, you ain't kidding. I don't think the dude shops there anymore, and I don't know what the hell happened to him. But I know at one point that was what he would do every single Comic Wednesday, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you can ask Wrath. They might have called the cops on him at least once because I think they asked him to leave, and he put up a fight.
Yep, basically, yeah. And I mean, Isotope is a perfect example of a comic shop that gets it right. It is as much of a sit down and relax with the comics that you've already bought, type of place. And they even have like a little like reading area on the side for kids, where you don't even necessarily have to buy anything, fully expecting that the parents are going to wind up, buying stuff for themselves or for the kids while they're in there.
Right.
And still have a relaxing, socialized environment while still being a store.
Yeah, there's a shop that made national news in my area called Amalgam Comics. They were a shop which operates as a coffee shop as their main business. So comic books on one side, coffee shop on the other side, and then you buy your books, and then you move over to the other side, and you have this social interaction.
Yeah.
This experience is just to sit down and read your books like a normal person almost.
Yeah.
It's the idea that you don't have to be forced out of a shop to go read your books. They invite you in to stay and actually interact with other people.
What was not a good idea was a very short-lived comic shop in around like West 4th Street in Manhattan. And Jamal, I don't know if you remember this, but it was a burger shop / comic shop.
I remember that.
Yes, I do remember it, actually.
Yeah, because nothing screams flipping through comics better than greasy fry fingers.
Isn't there still a place in Queens that does that exact thing, though?
I think there is in Queens, yeah. But the one in particular that I'm thinking of in Manhattan, we went to it once, and I was just like, this isn't going to work.
It didn't last long, actually.
No, it did not.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Well, Action Burger, right?
Yes, Action Burger. Yeah, that's it.
Because there's Action Burger in looks like Brooklyn, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think the Action Burger in Brooklyn. I don't think they're trying to sell books. I think it's just the whole comic book motif is what they're going for. I don't think they have any comics in stock at that Action Burger.
Yes.
Well, thank God.
I can't even imagine. But it's really funny that we're talking about this, because one of the things that I was talking about with my wife was the idea that because now, especially, one of the things that DC is doing along, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, once we start talking about, the new distributors,
right,
is that they eliminated the week's grace period between comic shops and bookstores for new releases, for trades and graphic novels.
Which is smart to me. I mean,
But now you're going to have comic shops are going to need to step up their game to have to compete with some of the bookstores.
Sure.
In order to keep those customers. One of the things is, like, my local shop is a place called Galaxy over here in Park Slope. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they did when they moved was they put their kids' graphic novel section right in the front of the store.
Oh,
and
wow.
We're talking like 3 huge bookcases of kids' graphic novels, brightly lit as soon as you walk in. And there's lots of space between the walls so that kids can gather and look and browse and everything. And then all the rest of the comics are in the back towards the back of the store, past the toys. And they do very well, or they were doing well before all this went down.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of comic shops are hesitant to even try to do anything that will make the store more family friendly, in spite of what some of them say they want to do.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the battle between 45-year-old comic guy and 14-year-old comic guy, which I feel like that differentiation gets wider and wider every year instead of closer, where they feel like they need to appease to the old school fan,
right?
Forgetting that eventually the old school fan's going to die.
But then you'll get the old school fans who are constantly making the argument that the company should be trying to appeal to them,
right,
as opposed to trying to appeal to kids. It's like, it's okay for the kids to read our books, but you should be catering to us.
Yeah.
We're the ones who've carried you through all these years.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that's all well and good. Where are you going to be in 20 years?
Exactly.
Brent, I wanted to bring you in for a minute. Have comic shops reopened in Florida yet? Do you know?
I have not seen anything. I follow two, and I know that the Coliseum Comics chain, there's like 9 stores down here in Central Florida. Mm-hmm. That was the one that I was going to a lot before I went digital, and they were doing curbside pickup as of like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And everybody was still doing mail order. Epic Comics in Orlando, which is right by me, was still doing mail order for a while. And Almondo, the owner there, does a lot of like live streams every week. Mm-hmm. Aaron Howland from A Comic Shop, which is also in Orlando, has been selling stuff like crazy on Facebook Live. And I don't know how he does that. I actually been to a couple events with him, just random stuff. He knows a friend of mine. So he pops up here and there when our little friend group sometimes gets together. But like, he's been selling like crazy. So he's motivated to sell, and I have not seen that same initiative taken from like the big Coliseum chain or Epic Comics, which is just like 1 or 2 or 3 guys that run that little shop. So there's varying degrees of enthusiasm on how we're going to stay alive during this COVID stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially when a lot of these institutions, I mean, even after the stay-at-home orders are lifted, they're going to have some sort of online presence more so than they ever did, because that's how you're going to be getting the bulk of the people to make their orders, even if you're doing curbside pickup. Very, very few people use this thing called a telephone these days to actually talk on it. Most smartphones are used to text and surf the internet, at this point. Like, yeah, it's something that stores are very much aware of, and hopefully a lot of comic shops are, because if not, then they are indeed the dinosaurs.
I just think it's strange. I think I was reading some articles in March when all this like shutdown talk was happening, and I don't remember if Chris pointed this out in her article or it was a different one, but they basically said, I don't know where the figure was from, so don't quote me for truth here. But basically, like, the comics industry is like as big as $1 billion
yes,
in terms of, I think, revenue. And I was like, that is a large number. But if you think, and I was breaking this down for Jim because we talk about it a little bit, comics and video games on our daily FaceTime check-ins. Mm-hmm. If you think of that number, I think it's very small. Like call it 150, 200,000 stores plus all the employees, right? That's a good amount for those amount of people, but you got to break it up with all the publishers, all the distributors, USPS, and whoever they ship through gets a little chink in the chain. Mm-hmm. Diamond and now Lunar and whatever Midtown's Armor now getting a little chink of that $3.99 per book or whatever it's going to be. And then you got to split it up with all the editors and artists and production guys and the writers and everything. And it's like, this really does seem like pennies. And I'd read before or heard it said before, like, you don't get into comics for the profit, you do it for the love of the industry. And Jamal can speak more to this. He's the pro here. But, it doesn't sound like there's a lot to go around unless you have been doing what Jamal's been doing, where you're taking control of your own destiny, selling your own product and controlling the distribution and, the editing and keeping all those other costs down low so that you can reap most of the profits. I mean, I'm watching Shark Tank cooking dinner tonight, and they're talking about industries that aren't that big. They get excited about a $100 million industry,
right?
But that's for one company, not every company in the previews magazine, So, and we're talking about $1 billion divided up in between all those different publishing companies. So,
Brent?
It's incredible.
Brent? No. So your number is accurate. I just looked it up in Publishers Weekly. 1.09 billion in 2018, but that includes the United States and Canada.
Oh wow!
And it is the book market in addition to the direct market.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, at least that's kind of an all-encompassing number in such a way. But you still, that's even more pieces of the pie to chop up and distribute to everyone across two countries.
But think about it this way also. It's not just comics that are suffering in terms of print. All print sales are down across the board.
Yep.
That's just the way it is, unfortunately. And it's been that way for a very long time.
Yeah.
When I tell people sometimes like what the actual numbers of what gets published and sold, the average novel only prints like 1,000 copies.
Shit,
that is low.
Seriously,
I knew that.
Seriously, that's it. It's the Harry Potters and the big sellers that carry the entire publishing lines through, and it's the same thing with comics.
Yeah.
Most comics, when you think about it, most independent companies kill to be able to sell 3,000 copies.
Sure.
But right now, people just don't like to read, or at least they don't like to read on that level. Digital is starting to come up a little bit. It's more popular in Asia than it is here. Mm-hmm. But I have a feeling as things go forward, it's going to become more the norm. I think a lot of it is going to have to do with the price point on technology as well. As soon as that price point starts to come down even further than it already is, and the technology itself becomes much more user-friendly for the average person, then you're going to start to see it uptick in digital.
Well, so what is not for user-friendly about an iPad and Comixology app, I guess?
Well, I can tell you, just having to deal with the whole school thing here is not every family has the ability to buy an iPad.
Yep.
It's too expensive.
That or an Android. There's cheaper Android tabs. Like there's cheaper alternatives is my point, I guess.
But the Android
or your smartphone.
But like I've tried reading on my Kindle, it sucks.
I agree with that, because what I find is a lot of American comics, like we do them digitally, but they're not optimized for shittier screens.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know before I had my iPad, reading on the Kindle Fire that I had, and at the time this was the top of the line Kindle Fire. It was only okay. I could read, but I always had to do the zoom. Like, it's only a little bit smaller than an iPad, but I always had to do the zoom to actually, read panel by panel. And I much prefer reading page by page when I can. And it changes the reading experience. To me, it actually makes it slower rather than faster. And
yeah, panel by panel is slower for sure.
Definitely. And it's also something that, it takes a learning curve, even though it is as simple as literally a double tap on Comixology. It takes the learning curve of knowing that's something you can do, as opposed to, having to freaking zoom in every single page, which I'm sure plenty of people do, not realizing that there's a panel-by-panel view. It's just the way it rolls. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, you got companies like TKO, which I find extra fascinating. Like, ones where they're releasing multiple formats at once. The trade paperback, the six issue box set, and the digital all at the same time to try and literally please everybody.
Right.
And this seems at least closer to the quote unquote future to me. If you can get it all out there at once, because as somebody who regularly waits for the trade, if I'm gonna buy it in my hand, I freaking hate having to wait for that shit. But I understand why it happens, because you got to make your money off of your singles before you go ahead and make your money off the trade. If you're making your money off the trade at the same time you're making it off the singles, at the same time you're making it off the digital, that seems like it's gonna work in the end to me, if that makes any sense.
But at the same time, not every company can afford to do what TKO is doing.
Right.
And that's just the truth. A company like Alterna or Action Lab, they're not going to be able to put out an entire trade and single issues at the same time and do digital, because
it costs so much money. Yeah.
It costs them money. They're not getting the orders on single issues that they would on a potential trade. Mm-hmm. They're definitely not going to make up those sales digitally, because digital right now for most companies is maybe 10% of their bottom line.
Yeah, I think the number I saw was digital was $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
And like speaking as a digital only customer for almost 10 years now, I don't buy as much digital as I did floppies when I was ordering them, even though I was ordering from DCBS and Heroes Corner back in the day. But that was because of the steep discount. Since there's no discount or even, price, there is price equity on digital for the retailers, not for me.
Right.
I wait a lot of times, and I will wait for something to go on a 99-cent sale or a $5.99 trade sale like they have all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've bought more older issues of stuff than I have newer issues recently just because of that. I feel like the $5.99 for a digital file is a much fairer price for something that's older than, paying full price for a trade. Now, I will pay full price for things I love. Birthright comes out every month. I love that book. I will pay full price. If I'm reading one of Jamal's books, I will pay the full price on those, except for Black. I forgot to buy the last 2 issues. I still haven't bought those. Just fessing up here. But if there's an artist or somebody I really like or enjoy or, I'm friendly with, I will pay full price. But there's a lot of the mainstream stuff I'm waiting, or I will read in some other format, or I'll, hedge my bets. And Comixology Unlimited has all of Ex Machina from Brian K. Vaughan on there for the $5 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm waiting to get around to that, and I'm going to read that entire thing basically for free. I don't know what cut of that those creators get, but I think the price parity.
It's very, very small.
Right. The price parity feels more there than you do because, if I get a $3.99 comic in floppies, okay, fine. I got the paper, I can feel it or everything, but. This is in the past now. Everything's a period piece now. But when you got that Tom King comic that was all letterboxes or no letterboxes, like he was going after KG Beast. This is the one I railed against. I want to say it was like 47 or something. Mm-hmm. And it was Batman going after KG Beast after Nightwing got shot.
Yeah.
And it literally took you all of 3 minutes to read the damn thing because it was pure art. And I paid $3.99 on Comixology for this stupid thing.
Yeah.
And it took me all of 2 minutes to read, and I really felt ripped off after that. And I was like, this is insane. Because I know that Tony Daniel, who is a good artist, spent a lot of time doing those panels, but I didn't spend as much time looking at those panels as I would have if I was actually reading more text or story. I mean, I don't know what I wanted out of it, but I wanted to feel like I'd spent my money wisely, whereas at the end of that issue, it's not just that one. There have been other ones too, but that's the one I can point to off the top of my head. But that, a $3.99 book doesn't feel digitally as well worth your interest because, you can buy a song you listen to thousands of times for $1.29 or something like that. I don't know.
You also don't own the comics that you purchase on Comixology. You're only renting them.
Yeah.
You only have them as long as the company exists. So it's always going to be kind of an iffy proposition for people knowing that you're just renting the content. I mean, we haven't seen an apocalypse when it comes to music or books yet, but games definitely. It's like, oh, you're going to lose access to this thing you paid for 10 years ago, and that's already happened in the games industry.
Well, that's Nintendo for you. So far, Xbox has been coming through with their back compat on certain things, but it's still there. They didn't take away my Xbox 360 licenses for things that aren't backwards compatible. I just have to go buy an old Xbox 360 and hook it up to the internet to access it. So I guess there's some truth to that, but I forget. I was reading. There was a thing about Prime Video the other day in Amazon about people buying movies on Prime Video through the app or something like that, and then they would disappear out of their collections because they were suddenly unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that happened with
purchasing,
Apple,
not
too.
a rental, or and I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Apple.
Oh yeah, no, they did. Apple did that with iTunes. Just like a bunch of music that I had in my iTunes library just disappeared one day.
Yep.
And I could never recover it.
I mean, the same thing happens all the time with video games that you buy off of PSN or Steam or what have you. A perfect example, the Silent Hill game that Kojima was going to make.
E.T.
E.T.,
yeah.
Oh, that was a preview to the Silent Hill game.
That's not a real thing. I mean, that was a demo, a mod kind of thing.
Okay, fine. Better.
For the most part, games that have shut down on the networks on Microsoft and stuff, you can still purchase, or not purchase. You may not be able to purchase them, but because you have purchased them, you can still play them. They're still sitting waiting for download somewhere on a server, with the exception of PT.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the one bad exception to the rule.
Yeah.
To Comixology, speaking on that, I've bought when back in the day, I don't know, 9 years ago or something like that, Comixology was offering what they call digital omnibuses, right? Which are kind of what the omnibus market turned into. Like, I have the digital omnibus for Planetary. It doesn't exist on the store now. You can't go look it up. But I remember buying this for $25 for all, I don't know, 24 issues or something like that, and it was a steal. I could still download that into my iPad and read it. It still shows up as a purchase, as still, like, that file is still sitting on a server somewhere.
Right.
I just want to note that I downloaded the Dark Horse app just to see if I could still download my issues of Star Wars Legacy that I bought years and years ago.
Oh, yeah? Does it work?
And yeah, and I can still buy them with the Dark Horse logo on them.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, they did say that those were going to continue to be available.
Well, they better. I mean, I paid $35 for every single issue. Like when they were doing a clear out when Disney took back the license.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I bought 2 Invincible digital omnibuses, which are no longer available for purchase, but they're still in my library. So they're doing a good job of managing that. I haven't gotten screwed on that yet, but I do recognize the fact that if they go under or Amazon decides they're not worth any time, they'll disappear. But my hope would be that some other, I don't know who the competing service would be at that point in time if anybody launches one, but maybe at that point in time everybody will have their own $5.99 a month thing like Marvel or DC, and I don't know, somehow Image and the Indies get together and do one. I have no idea.
Well, since you literally just said the words competing services, I think it would actually be a good time to bring up the competing services that have launched distribution-wise. We did bring it up a little bit last episode, but it was very, very fresh at that point. But now, as further information has come out on, Midtown Comics and DCBS's respective services, UCS and Lunar, obviously asking this of Jamal, you brought up earlier that, monopolies aren't great because, obviously when you're the only person there, you get to set every single rule.
Right.
And now we're at an instance where, there's 2 new distributors out there, plus there's the book market, which is now changing significantly on distribution and at times not just going to bookstores. But how do you see, UCS and Lunar basically changing the landscape?
Okay, so I am old enough to remember when you had to go to the shop twice a week to get books.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go to the shop on Tuesdays and on Fridays to get books. And this was back when Capital City and Diamond and Heroes World and all these other distributors were all delivering books. So I didn't see it as a big deal then. It was only when the distributor wars all ended and they all decided, Diamond decided they were going to ship books once a week. Mm-hmm. We got used to that idea. I think people will get used to the idea of having to go to the shops more than once a week again. As far as the monopoly aspect of Diamond was never actually a monopoly, mm-hmm. which is when you think about it, they were specific to the direct market, but there are other distributors who handle graphic novels,
right?
So and handle graphic novels for Marvel and DC.
Mm-hmm.
I think the advantage that Diamond had for comic book retailers was that they were able to get things at a premium through Diamond that they would not have gotten from, say, Ingram, for example, or Penguin.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. The competition really is going to end up being between these 3 companies. In a healthy market, that would mean that whoever is able to give them the better discount is going to get that account.
Mm-hmm.
And I think And I sincerely believe that this is going to be healthier for the industry as a whole, because if you have more than one distributor who can get you product in a reasonable amount of time, and DCBS has a reputation for not denting up books, for example.
Yeah.
Getting people their stuff in reasonably good shape.
Right. They've been doing that for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what I think the thing that surprised me more than anything else as all this information was coming down is that these two companies, DCBS and Midtown, were already the biggest accounts that Diamond had.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I mean, I knew they were big. I didn't realize that they were basically half of Diamond's orders.
I knew Midtown was that big. I had no idea DCBS was that big.
Yeah, no, DCBS is huge.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they were such a behemoth. Why isn't their website updated in the last 15 years?
Because
I guess if it works, right?
Exactly, right. You put your money where you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put it into getting the product to the customers. You don't worry about the website.
Right. Why have we been using the same MetroCard machines here in New York City since 1996? It's because they work good enough.
Exactly.
Well, that's a governmental concern.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well,
Let me tell you, good enough is always good enough for the government.
That is true.
That's an A+ for the government. Speak from experience here.
So, fun fact. The company that makes Metro cards and also does Chicago's transit cards also makes nuclear weapons guiding systems.
No, don't tell me that.
That's disconcerting.
And every now and then the guidance systems will say card read error.
Please swipe card again. Please swipe card again.
Please swipe at this turnstile.
Yeah. I think I discovered that because I actually went to their website. There was literally two boxes, one for transit cards and the other for military contractors. I was like, what?
And the military contracts probably what fund the Metro card development.
Oh, definitely. Please.
Just in terms of profit. I don't know.
Thank you, DARPA.
So before they, literally like 2 days before they announced these new distributors, I was listening to 11 O'Clock Comics talk to Christina from DCBS.
Yeah.
And she was talking about having to shut down for COVID and stuff. And then 2 days later, they announced the new thing. And I was like, wow, they probably shitting themselves a little bit, going like, oh, man, I wish we knew or could have asked. I don't know.
But
it was an interesting conversation to listen to.
Yeah.
Listen to her talk about her relationship with the publishers and Diamond. And that's when I realized that they were such a big account, because she was kind of spouting off some of her customer numbers and stuff. I was like, wow, I didn't realize they were so big. So it's something good to go back and listen to if you can find it.
Well, they were, when you think about it, I mean, they're pretty much the only store that actually has an online infrastructure that works, other than if you want to say Midtown Comics, because I mean,
right.
Midtown does online numbers, sure, but like they get most of their money off of tourists from that go to Times Square. Like that's, let's be real about it. Their online their website's gotten better over the years, but they're nowhere near as consistent order wise as say DCBS. Mile High Comics does back issues pretty damn good, but talk about a website that looks like it hasn't been updated in 15 years. Theirs looks like it hasn't been updated since GeoCities.
The only company that I can think of that probably, and they're not anywhere near the size of Midtown, is probably Things from Another World. I think they're probably as far as like the comic book industry,
right?
I think they're probably like number 3 maybe in terms of like mail order and online sales.
Okay, but let's just think about this for a minute. Now, for years, comic book retailers have been pissing and moaning and bitching about, as you said, Jamal, it's not really a monopoly, but it's a monopoly. They're the largest one out there when it comes to the direct market. And they're saying, like, we need change. Change has to happen. Change is going to come. We're going to be so happy when change shows up. Now here's change. And the first
and they're pledging their loyalty to Diamond. It's astonishing.
Yeah, exactly. The first words out of their mouths were, well, we want to change, but not this change. Because
that was the funniest part to me.
Yeah.
Especially somebody like Brian Hibbs, who does nothing but bitch and moan about everything, was suddenly like, we can't abandon Diamond. Diamond's been good to us. I'm like, what the fuck?
Did anybody read the I don't know if it was basically like a retailer list of demands from Brian Hibbs' organization. Some of that stuff was just out of control. I was like, what?
It was really
a lot
bad.
of it was completely unrealistic. Like there's just no way for anybody smaller than, say, Boom Studios to even pull off half the stuff that he was talking about having the industry doing.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous. You know, you have to operate within the parameters that you have. The industry just isn't big enough right now where you can expect a small independent publisher who's basically, you know, a couple of guys in their living room trying to put books together to, you know, to do returnable comics. It's just, you know, Marvel could do it, DC can do it, but there aren't that many companies that can do it.
Definitely, yeah, and I mean, I get why comic shops would be a little bit annoyed that other comic shops have now become their distributors. Like, I understand that. But it also still screams of sour grapes to a point that these two, you know, mega powers have somehow managed to be mega powers and they're not. And it feels like they're, you know, giving further money to these mega powers in the industry.
Well, that was a lot of the complaining that I had seen initially were the accusations that Midtown and DCBS were somehow going to corner the market on all the premiums and, you know, cut smaller retailers out. We don't have any. They had to create new distribution companies so that there wouldn't be that, you know, idea of impropriety.
Right.
You know, there's just no way that they'd be able to get away with that. That's, you know, you're bringing the FTC right down on top of your head.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, they're still relatively small.
Right.
It's like, why would you play with fire like that?
Yeah, I think DCBS, Christina said they had, I don't know, the order of magnitude of like under 60 to 100 employees or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's not a huge company by any size of the means. I mean, small businesses, the federal government considers you a small business if you're under 500.
Right.
So, and we all realize what a crock of shit that can sometimes be with these Ruth Chris steakhouses and stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny that, the comic stores are complaining that there are comic stores becoming distributors, but another podcast plug, I was listening to Fat Man on Batman. They had Steve Jeppy, the guy who heads Diamond.
Jeppy.
They had him on 2 weeks ago, and he literally told the story how he was a comic shop owner that, you know, had an account with a bunch of these distributors, and then there were other stores who couldn't get their numbers up or whatever, and asked him to order for them. So he did, and then that's how he got started distributing comics to other stores, and then it just became bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's literally how Diamond started, is doing that exact same thing that Midtown and DCBS are now stepping in to do to try and fill a gap that this pandemic has caused. So it's incredibly ironic that they're complaining about the same. They're literally getting started the same way that Diamond did, except for the circumstance.
Yeah. Can I also bring up that Chris and I have been to the Jeppy Museum in Baltimore, and that museum is literally just Steve Jeppy's comic collection.
Look at the stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you say our collection's complete?
He doesn't need to buy that complete run of DC. He's already got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is it?
Like there's one display like that's literally like a comic book from every single year. Like all the way from one end of the hallway to another, and you're looking at that like, yeah, I think this guy's good.
Yeah, this guy's good, but the company is not, apparently. And that's what was astonishing to me. Going back to cash flow, we were talking about it a couple minutes ago. Like, I mean, I understood that the stores didn't pay Diamond until a certain time, and yada yada yada, and they don't have income, so therefore, how can they be expected to pay Diamond for their orders? That all makes sense to me. But the fact that Diamond shut down because they said basically, maybe Maryland or Baltimore County, wherever they're at, said you can't run. Plus, in addition to them being, not cash flow positive or whatever, not having reserves to operate during this time, was kind of like, wow, I didn't realize. I knew the margins were small, but I didn't realize that the monopoly distributor for the direct market didn't, operated so close to the railing.
Well, a lot of that has to do with a lot of retailers running on credit. I mean, that's what sinks a lot of shops more than anything else, is that they overload themselves with stock and then they can't move it.
Yep.
So they're sitting. I mean, there are literally comic shops that have closed with like there was like one shop that closed with like $1.5 million in unsold stock.
Oh my God!
Like speaking from experience, like I worked for years for a monopoly for a toy sales company.
Yeah.
Toys R Us was the biggest company out there, and that's what happened to them. They literally went bankrupt because they were buying stuff on credit and they couldn't move their merchandise because the shopping public had shrunk so much.
Yeah.
And
they were also burdened with KB's debt as well, weren't they?
Yes, they were. So what happened was when they were a restructuring from vulture capitalists who bought up the company and sold them at a loss, and they left them with almost hundreds of millions of dollars in debt for the company.
Yep.
And so they were operating in the red every year, and they were still buying a shit ton of product to hopefully quote unquote sell because they were getting it at such a good deal from those manufacturers. And when they closed, we literally were emptying our warehouses every day.
Yep.
3 trucks a day, full trucks, mind you, of just random shit from 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that there were some pictures on Instagram from Toys R Us employees that were finding like Turtles toys from '98.
Yeah,
just sitting in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like some collector very happy on eBay right now.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Seriously, they could have gone as an eBay type collectors, adult nerds business. I don't know. I don't know.
They tried that also. They tried that the year they declared bankruptcy. They opened up several pop-up stores throughout different markets that were collector-based. They were called Jeffrey's Toy Box, I think they were called.
Yeah.
And they had, talking like figure arts, I'm talking like niche collector stuff at like massive discounts. Things that were marked down to like, that were originally $25, $30, marked down to $19.99, $14.99, $10. And they were just packing the shelves out there. And none of it was still move.
Yeah. I by the way, I bring it back slightly to DCBS's Lunar. I did find the Newsarama article that actually has an interview with Christina. And
yeah, that's an email interview. It reads like an email interview. I was disappointed with that one.
It does, but it does give you some information at least, which the fact that they're working at Christina says that Lunar is currently operating in an unused and separate warehouse space from DCBS that is owned by DCBS Holdings LLC. And someone who knows about the history of DCBS knows that they moved warehouses about a year and a half ago to expand.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 different cities they operate out of between them and In-Stock Trades?
Yes. They then wound up moving back, if I remember correctly, because, frankly, that warehouse was just not working out for them in that aspect. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is indeed that former warehouse. If they still, had the lease on it or what have you, that would make perfect sense for their distribution angle. They also say that once Diamond is up and running and fully back to business, they'll evaluate everything on the lunar side of things and focus on going forward as to whether or not, there's still a need for them after the fact. But I personally believe that if enough companies go to them, there is going to be a need. Because, again, people are not happy with what Diamond has been doing industry-wise. And there has to be competition of some sort in order to keep this entire hobby of ours that we love going.
It's all still very early. I mean, we don't know how this is going to shake out. As it is in terms of the medical side of everything that's going on with the pandemic, like countries that thought that they were going to be able to open up again are now seeing spikes.
Yep.
We're looking at a year and a half before there's a vaccine.
Yep.
This is going to be the new paradigm that we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to figure out how to live. Mm-hmm. And it's not even a matter of going back to normal, because normal is out the goddamn window.
Oh, sure.
We're just all trying to figure out how to exist in some semblance of whatever this reality is. Goddamn Hadron Collider. They had to turn the goddamn thing on, didn't they?
I
hate this timeline.
I think we would have been much better off had they just opened up a portal to another universe and just started sliders. I think that things would have worked out much better than the bullshit that we wound up in. Somewhere out there, the Berenstein universe is doing just fine, but we're stuck in a fucking Berenstain.
So are we on Counter Earth or are we on Earth 2? I can't tell anymore.
We are definitely on Earth Omega.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh man! But since you mentioned new paradigms and what have you, I can easily wind up bringing this up now. There is a new paradigm out of Marvel Comics, because while DC has taken the approach of turning to new distributions, Marvel they didn't do that route. They're saying they're going to distribute stuff through Diamond like they've been doing for now, at least until something else winds up coming out. However, they did make a bunch of titles digital only that were not originally digital only, which I'm sure comic shops, yet again, absolutely loved, because they get angry over everything. But this is at least a sign to me that Marvel is willing to try other options. I
don't know if it's try other options as much as like they were going to not take a bath per se, but maybe operate at a loss on those titles.
Yeah.
And therefore, since they'd already paid the creators their fees, or the work was already completed, digital became like a dumping ground for these things, the way that some indie movies are now on VOD or whatever, because the traditional distribution system wouldn't work for those titles, especially at this time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you're going to go back and you're going to go want the newest issue of Batman 92 whenever that Punchline character debuts, which is not going to be as big a deal now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was like the hottest upcoming issue, right? So you're going to focus on getting that in your new X-Men, because Hickman's gone crazy during the quarantine and he's got some crazy ideas. And meanwhile, White #1 put on there, and you want that book as well. Plug. You're not going to focus on Hawkeye issue 4 of 6, right? It's going to flip your mind because all the hot new books are out.
Right. But at the same time, I think that this is good. This makes good business sense. If you have titles that the actuaries have looked at and said, we're only going to sell so many units, we might as well go digital first with this, and then have everything and put out the trade at a later date. I think that makes sense. I mean, I enjoyed the new Hawkeye series. I thought it was really good, but I can understand why they're going this route.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, if they weren't, if the numbers weren't there to sustain them waiting for, a print release, then yeah. And for that matter, maybe there are going to be some people, because I mean, it's completely speculative whether or not this does actually happen, that maybe there are going to be Hawkeye fans that go back and now read the first 3, knowing that this is a comic that they can read online first, and they'll go ahead and, catch themselves up on that a little bit.
Right.
It's completely speculative because it's so impossible to even see what the numbers are for digital, because they never release those numbers. So we have no idea how many people are actually reading, Marvel Comics digitally or not, and how many people
I don't even think there's a top 10 on the Comixology site.
I don't think there is.
Ever. There's a trending or popular.
Yeah.
But it's not a top 10.
I'm on the site right now. There's top rated, top selling. So let me see if I click on top selling. Right now, under top selling, Batman: The Adventures Continue is on there. A 99-cent DC comic, by the way. I want to point that out. And a awesome idea for a DC comic. The fact that we go back to the Batman animated universe like this is pretty badass. But almost everything in top selling right now is a DC comic. I'm not seeing anything until, for some reason, Bloodborne out of Titan Comics. So I don't know if this is a real list.
Yeah, there's a Star Wars comic on there. At least I'm looking to now.
Yeah. It's few and far between. We got let's see, Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider number 4 of 5 is on this best-selling list as well.
Are those single issues or trades on the DC ones? Because DC just ended a massive trade sale for like the last 3 weeks.
These are single issues.
Okay.
Yeah, these are single issues. Like Swamp Thing is on there. Some other like old issues that got released are definitely on here because they're 99 cents a piece. Like Flash: Fastest Man Alive by Gail Simone, which I think was part of the 100-page Walmart things. Those
digital firsts that they're releasing now are actually stories from those Walmart books.
That's what I figured. Yeah, and those are going for 99 cents a pop, and they're selling really well. Which also goes back to price point, because Brent brought it up before, and I'm in the same boat where I wait for sales. There's no way I'm going to pay $4 for a single issue of a comic book digitally when I know I can wait 6 months and buy it for 99 cents. It's just not something that's in my budget, and I'm so far behind in my reading that I can certainly wait the extra amount of time. Marvel's also put out a bunch of digital-only trades over the past couple of months with some of their harder to find back issues, including an entire run of X-Men from like the mid 2000s with frickin' Joseph in it. X-Men Betrayals they're releasing for I think $6 on Comixology and Amazon right now. It's just digital price points have to be at a point where they make sense. Charging as much as you do in a shop for something digitally, not many people are going to go ahead and say, "Oh, well, I need this day of, and I'm going to pay the $4 for a single issue." It's not a price point that just makes that sort of sense.
Yeah, Ian. Oh, sorry. There's Jamal going to say something. I heard a large breath there.
No. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, it's just that. So yeah, like you're right that you don't want to pay $4, maybe sometimes even $5 for a digital-only product when it's the same price for the physical, because you know that you get the physical, you own it, you have it, you can give it away to your friends or your kids when you're done with it. I've found it very insulting over the years when people are like, but one, we have to keep the comic shops alive. Going back to my earlier point about, that loyalty to the comic shop that I find frankly damaging at this point.
I got over that bullshit years ago.
Yeah, and just the fact that people have said, "Oh, but you think that printing the comic costs so much money?" And I'm like, yes, because I know that the retailers are not paying $4 for that book. Yeah. They're paying, $3, $2. You look at DCBS, and that gives you kind of an idea of what the comic shops are paying for it, even if you don't work in the comics industry.
Right.
Like, it's not $4. Like, they have to split the cost between the comic shop, between the guys who drive the trucks, and all the people putting stuff in boxes at Diamond, the printers getting the stuff to Diamond, and the printers themselves, like going all the way back. There's a lot of steps in there that all have to take their little cut. Otherwise, this isn't profitable for anyone.
It's pretty astonishing that you think about it, that DCBS can offer a 40% discount on a brand new book. I'm like, that's probably most of what comic shops make. Is that a little bit more than 40%? I would guess.
Yeah. And it's what? How much is shipping on DCBS these days? I mean, again, I haven't done it in a while, so it's hard for me to remember. It's usually like
$7 or something for a month.
Yeah,
15 for biweekly.
So I mean, yeah. So like in the end, like you're still getting savings even with the shipping, tacked onto it. It's not like you're averaging out in the end. Like you're still going to wind up saving like at least like $20-$30 if you're making a big order.
The funny thing too with DCBS, like I could see how they have grown to be one of the largest accounts Diamond has because they have been. I mean, I don't listen to every comics podcast, but for the last 15 years, they've been advertising on, a vast majority of comics podcasts. Right. So that whatever that listening base is, if it's the same size, I think it's probably smaller than the total reading group, but even still, it's still a significant amount that have gone. I've heard about this long enough. I'm going to take the plunge or try it out or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas your local store, isn't doing that, maybe can't do that. But that's not to say like, a local store couldn't come to their local comic guys or whatever and podcast and be like, hey, you got 500 listeners? Are they local? Put us on there. I don't know. We'll give you 10% off because that's all we ever got.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that DCBS has gotten tons of exposure from podcasts over the years, and it certainly helped get their name across there in one way or another. Plus, with just for advertising on websites also does that, where that just a little banner that's rotating can be enough to be like, oh, that's going to get you to click on it. I mean, obviously people have ad block these days and wind up using that on half the sites, but still, it at least gets the point across a little bit. Plus, the other thing that I want to bring up is, going back to Marvel for a minute, that Marvel, they haven't been sitting on their laurels with this stuff, even with not having distribution points to that. And I'll bring up DC as well in this point with Marvel Unlimited and with Comixology, because they did it across both boards, which I was very appreciative of, because at least with Comixology, even though you don't quote unquote own the issues, if you purchase the issues, even if they're free, they're always in your account after that, which I appreciate with Comixology. Until the day that Comixology dies, until the day that Amazon is like, we don't need you anymore, we cast you to the winds, be gone with you, be gone. There's still going to be an option. And all of these free issues all these free trades that Marvel has been putting on their Unlimited app have also been available on Comixology. So full trades, like trades that would normally run like $18 to $20 a pop, you've been able to get for free in the app. So like over the past couple of weeks, I've gotten, like Civil War for free, Secret Wars, Ta-Nehisi Coates' volume 1 and 2 of Black Panther, his Captain America run, and a volume of Ms. Marvel. Like the list goes on. And this is all to try to get people stuff to read and to keep them interested in the industry. And I mean, hell, if you get some kids involved in the process, be my guest. But I mean, I doubt that's really going to be happening here with this particular instance. But still, it's a step in the right direction, and it's a positive. It's a nice, like, we know you're stuck inside. Here, have some stuff to read.
Right, but
like Chris was saying, lowering the price point right now with the numbers just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's a volume business. And even back in the day, one of my hobbies, and I keep telling people this, is I read up about the history of the industry, and I read up about the history of sales in the industry. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating. We had about the same numbers of readers now that we had back before the speculation boom.
Wow. What would you say that number is? Because in my estimation, if you look at the top-selling book, it's anywhere between 150 to 200,000, depending if there's an event going on, right?
Okay.
So if you say, right, but if you spread that out, that's 200,000 individual readers on the best-selling book. Right. So you spread it out and inflate it a little bit more, so maybe like 250.
Well, I can
in the direct market.
I can tell you. Hold on. Let me. Let's see.
Because out of 300 million people in the U.S., that's a low number.
Well, it's always been a low number. That's kind of the secret of the whole thing. But
that's why they're $4.99 now.
Okay, so I here, let's see. So all right, so for example, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a difference between the draw and the sale. So back when comics were returnable, you had the draw and the sale. The draw were the books that were sent to newsstands and to bookstores and the like. And of course, the sale of what was actually sold versus returnable. So the draw on Crisis on Infinite Earths. What issue was this? It doesn't say what issue it was. This is just monthly. But the draw was 256,000 copies. Mm-hmm. They only sold 79,000.
Whoa!
Everything else was returned.
Shit! Damn!
You're kidding?
I'm serious.
You just blew my mind, sir.
That boom was really a boom then. If it
was a huge boom because
what was X-Men #1? Like 6 million copies or something.
Ultimately, after all the covers and everything else, yeah. Somewhere. But this is one of my favorites, and I actually stole this from Jim Shooter. He had it on his blog years ago, and I always held on to this. So there was a list of distributors. So there were like at one point around 1982, 1982, there were 15 distributors distributing comics. The largest distributor was Capital City, mm-hmm. and their revenue there was a gain in revenue between 1982 and 1983. They had actually increased by about $60 million in sales over a year period from 1981 to 1982, but they were still only selling about $206 million.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah. How is the industry still running?
Through sheer force of will.
And that was when comics were like what? Still 35 cents or something?
No,
Crisis on Infinite Earths was maybe $1. I don't know.
82, I want to say they were in like the 50, 75 cent range.
Oh, yeah,
shit.
Thereabouts. Because I mean, I remember when I first started reading in '93, it was maybe $1.25, like $1.50 at most.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was $1.25.
Yeah.
When I first started reading, yeah.
Yeah, 1993, most comics were $1.25. I remember this because I was 12 and could not afford the extra 25 cents when it went up for $1.50.
Oh man, I am a little bit speechless at the moment, but I'm extra glad that we have you on this episode now, Jamal, to put us in our place in the world of comics history and what have you. So that's something, man.
So we were talking about dual days of comic releases, right? Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And I can think of how that could be a pain for a shop owner because now you have to do pull lists and boxes and stuff twice a week or whatever the deal is. Yeah. Or remember some books go on this day and some don't. But I would think that might be advantageous to your person that's going to come in Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 days in a row to get that fixed because you might come in on Tuesday and put that DC book down and go, hey, you know what? I don't need Green Arrow this month, or this doesn't look that good, or last month was so-so. And then he goes the next day on Wednesday, and his Marvel list is a little short than what he usually spends because maybe, the Steve McNiven book is late or whoever the hot artist is. I don't know. And they go, you know what? I'm going to get that Green Arrow issue that I put down yesterday and go back and pick that up. I would think that there's more opportunities for a sale there because they're in the shop, ideally 2 times a week versus just one.
But, from a retailer standpoint, retailers are receiving product all the time, not just comics. The shops that sell toys and games and what have you, mm-hmm. they're getting deliveries all the time. I don't see why it would be that much of an extra step for them to receive product on more than one, receive actual comics on more than one day. If you know that this is going to be this week's books, you've already got it organized. You know you're getting these books from Diamond, and you're getting these books. If you're on, who's handling the East Coast? Lunar's handling the East Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you know what I mean. I mean, it's not that much of an extra step. We'll see how it works out down the road. But for now, I don't see it as being a huge detriment.
Yeah, actually, wait. UCS is Midtown, so maybe UCS is the one that's doing the East Coast.
Okay.
It's really hard to keep these track at this point as to what's doing what.
Yeah, because they didn't call it Midtown Distributors or anything.
No.
Yeah.
It's early days.
UCS sounds like DCBS, but DCBS's company's called fucking Lunar.
Yeah. But then again, I've been making fun of Midtown Comics' name for years now, ever since they opened one in downtown. So it's, Midtown Downtown has always been my favorite.
Town Comics.
Oh man. So like where we are now, like even outside of like the normal distribution realms, and I'm gonna have to have Comfort and Adam come on at some point so we could talk about more like the webcomic end of things as well, because like you got things like Webtoon out there, which are booming numbers when it comes to like the youths, if you want to call them. Like the youths, the youths, the youngins, the people who I want to get off of my lawn. They're mainly going to sites like this to get their one and done reads for the day, and then move forward. And they have favorite creators that they follow the comic of, and a lot of this is very manga inspired or anime inspired. And Webtoons to me is a whole genre of comics that I know very little about, even though I know that it's where a lot of people go to read their stuff these days. And it makes me feel fucking old.
Well, I think there is a large portion of an audience that maybe is not captured in the direct market. I mean, isn't Ghost Spider which is a terrible name for that book, but Spider-Gwen, isn't that one of the titles that went digital only now from Marvel? Am I wrong?
I believe you're right, actually. I'll double check that, but yeah, that's...
Okay, so here you have a hot new character, air quotes, obviously, that's not selling very well, that is going digital only for that reason, but yet you walk in a con and there's the cosplay scene or whatever loves this character. So obviously, like, it just goes to show that, cosplayers aren't buying comics necessarily.
Yeah.
In the numbers that you see those characters, or maybe vice versa.
I do have to correct you because it may not be selling in terms of single issues, but the trades move.
That's true.
But the book market,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's very true. It's Ghost Spider number 9 was the one that was on shelves, or quote unquote on shelves, on digital shelves this week. So that one is the first digital only issue of that series. So the first 8 were in comic shops.
Is that the first time they called her Ghost Spider? Like, is that Ghost Spider Volume 1? Or is that Volume 2?
I think this might be Volume 2. It's very hard to keep track, and I also hate the name Ghost Spider, so you're not the only one.
Well, there's a whole thing with that.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's not just Spider-Gwen. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but prior to Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales was never referred to as Spider-Man on any of the merchandise.
Yes, I did notice that.
What was he called?
Kid Arachnid.
Oh my God!
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Used to work for Hasbro. Yeah,
and if you look at any of the merchandise now, he's not even Kid Arachnid. He's just Miles Morales.
Interesting, because they have to separate the brands.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
The Spider-Man trademark is very, very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing with Spider-Gwen. You can't call her Spider-Woman because technically she is Spider-Woman, but
Also, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 1 launched in October 2018.
Okay.
And it ran for, looks like 12 issues.
Yeah, that's about right.
And then they launched this newest one in 2019, which is just Ghost Spider in August 21st, 2019. And it's now on its, whatever, 9th issue.
I have to make this joke just because
God, I hate Marvel.
I'm legally required to because it's my favorite. It's my favorite, commercial. Look with your Spider-Gwen. My brand.
So dumb. They relaunch the series every fucking year.
Yeah.
Because number one sell.
I know.
But not number twos. Not number twos.
Nope.
Or number 9, apparently.
Yeah, this is why I ran away from a lot of superhero comics a few years back, because I just can't keep up. I'm a grown-up with not enough time to keep up with every reboot and event, and I know that's a whole other podcast, topic.
Oh, but it's related, Chris. Trust me, because it's the same thing with me. Like I'm glad that Hickman at least gave me a foot in the door for X-Men and just start there, because frankly, what's happened over the last 5 years, like I'm sure some of it was good over at X-Land, but hey, I got a fresh start and I don't care because this is where I am.
Well, it's funny that you said 5 years, because I was like, when did I stop reading Marvel? I'm like, around Secret Wars, and then I checked, that was 2015, so...
And that was Hickman too, so go figure.
I never finished it.
You never finished Secret
around
Wars?
like issue 4 or 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
pick it up for free on digital.
Exactly. Yeah. You can pick it
Won't
up for
cost
free
you
on
anything.
digital, or you can just read it on Unlimited. You got so many options. And by the way, readership on DC Universe, speaking of apps that are available, there was an article that came out today, actually, that says that readership is up 35% in the DC Universe app. I don't know if that means that they now are up from 0 to 35%. But that does mean at least people are reading, so that's something.
So, I recently, another DC Universe tidbit, I recently discovered, well, I was subscribing for like a year.
Yeah.
Because I was going to watch those shows, and I never did anything past Titan Season 1. So then when the pandemic came, I was like, all right, we're cutting some expenses. This can definitely go. So I cut it in March, and then I went back this month, and I was like, I wonder if because they were talking about the rewards thing, so I went to check it out. Lo and behold, I still have access to DC Universe.
What?
Everything. I have not paid in 2 months.
Oh, no.
Because it was managed through the Apple subscription.
Oh, shit.
I have a feeling that at a certain point, DC Universe will be going the way of the dodo.
Yeah. Well, I think as it is today, it will. I think that DC Universe as a reading app may still exist, but any video is going to get absorbed into HBO Max like before this year is over. I almost guarantee.
Well, they announced today that Season 2 of Doom Patrol was launching day and date on DC Universe and HBO Max in June.
Yeah.
And
so
now
it'll be a dual platform show.
Yep.
Swamp Thing's going to be on the CW, and so is Stargirl.
Yep. Yeah.
Swamp Thing. Ugh.
It's not looking good, and I still say, and I think I might have even brought it up last episode, like the stupidest thing about the DC Universe app is that it'll give me reading suggestions when I'm browsing it on my Roku. Who the hell is going to want to read comics on their TV? Like, why are you giving me reading recommendations when I'm looking for stuff to watch?
Because there's not a lot on that app. I tried the reading stuff on my Xbox app just for shits and giggles while I was dreading pressing play on the next episode of Swamp Thing. And because it's not that good. Review on YouTube later. And, it's not that bad. It's just, it's all high-res art, so it doesn't look that terrible, but it's the same thing you're complaining about the panel-by-panel on Comixology. It works the same way. Yeah. It's just not why would you want to do that when you could play a video game, watch a movie, or watch the TV show?
Right.
But their selection of TV shows is like the best thing they have going for them. Mm-hmm. But their movie selection's rotating, and that's terrible.
Yeah, the movie selection's really bad.
The fact that they don't have every Batman movie, period, is terrible.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't have every Superman movie, terrible. They don't have any Superman movies now. what's even more astonishing is that these direct-to-video, these Warner Premiere DCAU movies, going back all the way to 2005, I think.
They don't have all
with,
those either.
Superman Doomsday up to Apocalypse War, which just came out.
Yep.
The fact that they don't have every single one of those on that service, maybe you exclude the newest ones from like a year ago, but they only have like 6 of them.
But it's also it's a sign to me that when the app first launched, they were getting those new ones day and date. Like they were getting, the new DC animated movies like almost immediately, and they have not kept that up. And that is not a good sign for the service. But even pretty much everything Warner Brothers I'm worrying about. This new HBO Max service is going to have Crunchyroll content, VRV content, DC Universe content, and HBO content, and a bunch of other stuff thrown in there. But weirdly not Cinemax. When you're called HBO Max, it's the weirdest thing, but whatever. So part of me is like, so does that mean they're going to merge Crunchyroll in eventually? Does that mean they're going to merge VRV in? Like, what the hell's happening in that echo space? And I think definitely the first thing to go is going to be DC Universe's video content. I certainly hope, Jamal, because frankly, I would still pay the same damn price every month for the reading experience, because they have everything up until a year ago, and they're constantly adding more stuff that are holes in their catalog from before that.
Well, not everything. They're missing 10 issues of Azrael. I checked.
Excuse me, Mr. Azrael perfectionist. You know what?
But having the television content up there was the selling point for casual people.
Exactly.
People who were fans of like the CW superhero shows or the movies.
Those CW shows aren't even on there though. Like Smallville, all that stuff has got deals with Netflix or other streaming services. I don't know if they're going to be on HBO Max.
Right.
I want to say like Batwoman is the newest show, so I don't think it has a Netflix deal, and it may. I don't know if it's going to DC Universe when it ends this season, or if it's going to HBO Max. But I think that was the most recent one that is not going 6 days later to Netflix.
Right.
Yeah,
I would assume that I would assume that it's probably going to go to HBO Max once it's up and running.
More than likely, yeah. That seems to make the most sense. God, streaming services are so complicated, and they cost. If you want to do everything that you want to watch at this point, congratulations, you got cable again.
Pretty much.
I finally pulled the trigger on the WWE Network. Like I canceled my subscription and took it off my Roku.
Yeah,
it was just, yeah.
I understand, man. It's you can only watch so many things in this world, and if you don't have time for it, then why are you paying for it?
Exactly, especially if you're not enjoying it.
Yes, because a lot of the WWE is trash. Anyway.
What you don't say.
Yeah. I get my WWE enjoyment from watching old wrestling bios on YouTube. But bringing it back, Jamal, like lately, over the last couple of years, you've mostly been making your money off of, not making most of your money, but part of your money off of Kickstarters and, crowdsourced campaigns and what have you.
Right.
In this day and age, does it make more sense for an independent creator to just have a Patreon, have a Kickstarter campaign, have an Indiegogo, what have you, and just stick to that as their main source of income if it's working for them?
Well, if it's working for them, we certainly know people who, by hook or by crook, have managed to turn themselves into millionaires.
Yeah.
But I think that if it's working for you, it really ultimately is just like before. It really depends on what your ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
Not everybody's goal is to be their own creator. Some people just want to work on the characters that they grew up loving.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of extra hassle involved with doing creator-owned work. There's a lot of things that people just don't want to have to deal with, and I can completely understand. It's hard. It's hard as hell.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say to any creator who might be listening to the show that you should be doing X and shouldn't be doing Y.
Sure.
I'm not that arrogant. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you what's right for your career.
No, be like other people on the internet. Tell us exactly what you should do. Damn every other idea. Like that's
No, but you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, no,
what I'm
totally,
saying
yeah.
is that for some people it works to have a Patreon because Patreon seems to be, from my observation, it seems to be something that you have to be willing to update constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And I know for myself, like I'm usually so busy with my head down working on stuff that, you know, I don't post. I mean, I've just started posting stuff recently. Like I have a Instagram that I barely used for years, and it's only been within like the last 6 months that I've really started posting on a more regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of, you know, it really depends on the person. Some people can make that work. If you can do if you feel like doing a Patreon, I know that Adam Hughes and Allison Sohn started a Patreon recently where it's just basically you're looking at them and talking to them, you know, while they're working in their studio. You know, with other people, they're posting preliminaries and they're posting pages that they're working on and whatever. If you've got a webcomic, if you want to do an Indiegogo, if you want to do a Kickstarter campaign for a project, you know, I mean, Lord knows, you know, the opportunities are still out there. I mean, look at Iron Circus Comics, for example. That's a perfect example of somebody, Spike Trotman. She knows what she's doing. She's managed to make a career doing Kickstarters.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with Brian Polito. Like every time you turn around, he's got a new Kickstarter going for one of his projects.
Sure.
And, you know, pulls in like $175,000 with each one.
I think Paul Miotti was doing like exclusively Kickstarters for a while there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lemire has a new Kickstarter that just started up like a week or two ago.
Yeah. I think Sean Murphy is getting ready to do an Indiegogo campaign for his project, The Plot Holes. You know, I mean, you know, it really depends on what. And in Sean's case, he doesn't have to. I'm sure DC was perfectly willing to pay him whatever they wanted to pay him for whatever follow-up project he wanted to do after his Batman series.
Yep. Yeah. I see here, Cosmic Detective, Jeff Lemire and Matt Kint. They had a goal of 35,000. They are at 113,661 right now with 20 days to go. Like that's some loyalty.
It is, absolutely. But they built I mean, that's the thing about, you know, more so with Kickstarter than with Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Is that almost can't even go in there blind. You have to have some sort of, not popularity, but you have to have some sort of, like, you have to have a following.
Yeah.
Who are not just willing to pledge to the campaign, but are willing to spread the word.
Yeah, the days of potato salad on Kickstarter are way past us. although I think I did actually pledge at least $1 to potato salad at the time when it was up there. I don't know if I would today, but that's beside the point. But yeah,
well, he did good with the potato salad party.
Absolutely.
He did well.
Yes, he did. Indiegogo is a much different beast than Kickstarter, though, because you get, to put it lightly, inconsistency over at Indiegogo. You know, you've got some great creators on there, and then you've got ones that, it's not nearly as good.
Yeah.
I just want my Spawn action figure that I paid for. That's all I want.
When did you get a Spawn action figure on Indiegogo?
Okay,
no,
on Kickstarter. Tom McFarlane asked for $100,000 on Kickstarter to remaster, quote unquote, the first Spawn action figure. So the first one came out in 1996, maybe, with 4 cut joints or something, and then now this thing is like the 7-inch Toy Biz Marvel Legends equivalent with double jointed knees, ball ankles, every sort of articulation you could cream about and think of if you're an action figure guy. And I was like, I've never had a Spawn action figure. That looks cool. $40, sure, put me down. In the end, over 30 days, you raised $3.4 million bucks. I want to say 3.4.
Yeah.
And then instead of stretch goals, which I kind of thought this was cool, he gave rewards like you hit $1 million or something, and then he goes, "Okay, we hit $1 million. Thank you very much. Everybody is now getting a second painted head."
Oh, wow.
For all the different combinations, because there's like 3 different combinations kinds of figure, and then everybody's getting 2 weapons now, and everybody's getting an extra set of hands, and blah blah blah. So instead of a stretch goal like pay me more money, it was like, hey, this is doing so well, I can afford to do this. I can afford to do this. And apparently there's going to be more coming, so I don't know. It seems cool.
23,000 backers for this. 23,761 backers pledged $3,447 and $3,447,390 to this.
Well, it's not like he doesn't have the infrastructure to get people their rewards.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. That you don't need to worry about too much there. Like, but I still remember the days when the best doing Kickstarter was the Veronica Mars movie, and we've long since passed that on some of these things.
Yeah, that's true.
God, especially in the days of like Critical Role now. Jesus.
Oh my God, please. Yeah, but I mean, also talk about followings. Like guys like that can definitely leverage their existing audience to put out product that's gonna make them money and also make their people happy, and that's really all you can ask for.
He's pretty incredible. I follow him on Instagram. He seems like he's constantly a nice guy, and that's the impression I get, as well as talking. Mm-hmm. But like he's doing stuff with the action figure on Instagram all the time, talking about features and whatnot. And then his email campaign during the Kickstarter was like pretty informative and up to date all the time. I could appreciate that as a backer. But like before all this, the reason I knew about it was because of Instagram. He's constantly posting little doodles on there and different things on that. Like he's active. So if you're a creator and want to know the right way to do it, maybe Todd McFarlane. I'm not sure.
I mean, hey, I
you know what? I still can't forgive Todd to this day.
Why?
I'll tell you a quick story.
Go ahead.
The first Wizard Fan Awards, first Philly Comic Con, way back in the day. Mm-hmm. Todd McFarlane had a bet with Peter David, lost the bet, showed up at the Fan Awards in a chicken suit, right?
Yeah.
So after that, there was the after party after the Fan Awards. So it's me, it's Nelson, it's Mark Morales, and a couple of other people. Todd comes over, starts talking to us, and he's going on. He's had a little bit of drink. He's going on. It's like, and I just want, I'm just poking at him. And he starts poking me in the ribs with his bony little fingers. I'm just poking at him. I'm trying to let him know that it's a joke. And he's poking me hard.
Oh, God.
I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
The only thing I could say afterwards is, hoo-hoo.
Well, now we've entered the comics B2 section of the podcast.
Oh, no.
Hey, I'd still rather hear McFarlane talk than Liefeld any day of the week, all right? Even after hearing that story, Jamal.
Yeah.
That's really the only way that I can put that safely. I think we can put the distribution to bed a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about some other topics. But any final thoughts on this particular aspect that we may want to address? Chris, you got anything else you wanted to bring up?
On distribution, digital thing?
Yeah.
The fact that Shonen Jump app is still the best deal in all of comics.
Yes. My God, yes. It's what, $2?
It is $2 a month. That's before tax, but the tax is like 17 cents.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, like we talk about what kids are reading, the fact that they're not reading, the superhero comics, but it's like, yeah, because they can get all these Shonen Jump comics for $2 a month.
Yeah, as a parent, I would support that.
Oh, definitely. My God, yes. And the other thing that I need to bring up before I let anybody else have final thoughts on this topic is, once again, people, readcomiconline.to is a pirating site. even if it's the first thing that comes up when you put read comics into Google, it is not legit. Comics are not free from the big two. Okay? I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. Read it if you want to. I'm not stopping you because you're crazy to begin with, and so am I on occasion. But, like, just know that it's piracy. Just because it says read comics online in high quality in the frickin' text doesn't mean that it's sponsored by Marvel or DC or anything like that, because I've literally known people who have gone into this site thinking that it was legit, and it takes 3 seconds of being on this site to know that it's not legit.
Yeah,
if you're going to be a pirate, be a real fucking pirate and use Uncle Bit.
That brings it back.
From Torrent, yes.
I'm sure Jamal's comics are on there, because I know I found Dave Gallagher's comics on there. So.
My comics are everywhere.
Yeah.
They're there.
So I wanted to bring up this COVID not distribution per se, but the COVID and maybe the Dan DiDio exaltation has basically, we think, killed 5G. What was to be 5G, we don't know yet. Unclear. Because it was supposed to launch with this free comic book day comic, which has what came and gone. Mm-hmm. It's now middle of May.
Yeah.
And I guess it's missing from solicitations, and the 5G books that were solicited are missing from the schedules of the makeup days from Diamond so far.
I thought I had heard.
I wonder what the plan is for DC.
I thought I had heard that was delayed until September, but that could also be just scuttlebutt for all I know. But it wouldn't surprise me because
I had heard that
if DiDio was the driving force. Yeah, but if DiDio was the driving force on it and he gets fired, and you go, whoever's in charge probably had a reason. Maybe it was, I never liked that guy's ideas. Why would you go forward with the last idea that he was driving? I don't know.
I fully expect if this is the way that they're going to go, if this is the way that they're going to, pivot away from that, I fully expect these comics to show up at some point. I just don't know if they'll be under the official, DC banner, or like maybe they'll wind up being Black Label or something, just so that they can at least put the stuff that they've already made out in one way or another.
I would imagine that it would probably turn into like a separate event instead of whatever plans they had for replacing. And I'm basing this completely on rumor because I've done one thing for DC recently, and it's very, very minor, so I have no insight on this at all.
Exactly.
But I would imagine that whatever work's been done or whatever work they are continuing to do, it'll probably end up being its own event, rather than a line-wide initiative like the rumor mill was saying it was going to be.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, who the
hell knows?
I
was all down for Luke Fox's Batman, but I could see how that could not be a long-term idea.
I mean, maybe they'll just bring back Thunderstrike. I'm sorry, that's Marvel.
It's still a white guy being Thor. You're not upsetting the apple cart as you are
that's
making Batman black.
Good point. Yeah. Brandon, you got anything else you want to bring up on distribution?
I'm just excited to see what's going to happen, honestly. Hopefully it'll get me, having more than one distributor giving comics at the stores will get me interested in what's coming out again. As honestly, I've been backlogged, and I've been going through a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe having new ways to get comics out to me would be better. Get me back into reading more newer stuff again.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's perfectly fair. I'd like to be caught up.
I guess the one question we never asked was, is multiple distributors long term? We say it's a good thing for the industry, it's a good thing for comic shops to get deeper discounts or whatever, but is it going to drive prices down on books for consumers?
Not for the time being.
No. Yeah.
The only thing that would possibly bring the numbers down is selling more volume, and you got to get more customers. And right now, if you're just limiting yourself to comic shops and not
trying to find other outlets to get books out there, it's hard to bring in customers because comic shops, in spite of how much work a lot of really good shop owners have done over the last, I'd say, 10 years to try to make their shops more open. Because, I'm from the old days. I remember, when I used to work at Hanley's and at Forbidden Planet back in the early 90s, when Chris was telling her story earlier, I remember working at Hanley's, and when the rare woman would walk through the door, every guy's head turned in their direction, like they'd never seen a woman before. And half of it was creepy lust, the other half was revulsion, as in, how dare you come into the Honeycomb hideout?
Oh, dear God.
So a lot of stores have done a really good job of making their stores more friendly is the wrong word, but more palatable to be in, instead of, smelling like a gym locker.
BO and sadness is the is what I like to describe it as. Yeah.
I feel like the resurgence of manga helped that out.
Yeah, but the resurgence of manga is felt more in the bookstore market than it is necessarily in comic shops. Comic shops as a whole still has that stigma of being, kind of creepy. Thank you, Big Bang Theory.
Still like that show.
Fuck that shit.
Good for you.
Didn't help. Did not help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Penny. Sorry. Maybe that was what it was.
All right. Like her just fine. I think I still think the show was shit.
You can talk to my mom about it, Brad. She loves that show.
All right.
I do want to say that out of the shops in New York, like, Hanley's ended up being the most friendly. I know that isn't great considering what Jamal just said, but
it was another time.
Like, I knew the guys.
Yeah.
I knew the guys. I do remember one time that two guys called me a stupid white bitch, and I went up to buy my stuff, and Nick saw the look on my face, and he's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, I tell him, and he was like, "Where are they? Where are they?" And he's like calling all the employees. They were trying to find the guys, but they had already left. But I just loved, he totally got the mama bear instinct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, but that's the thing. It's Hanley. Jim. One of the things that Jim did was he made the store brightly lit. It had white bookshelves and white walls. Yep. Everything. We kept the place clean. We kept it organized. It wasn't like Ian. You remember the old Forbidden Planet?
Oh God, yes.
I do too. I also remember what was it? Mysterious Time Machine.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
Jesus.
I loved that place and hated it at the same time.
There was another place not too far from Hunter College in the 80s that was on the second floor, on top of a pet shop.
Gotham City.
Thank you, Gotham City. That you walked in, and even though it was on the second floor, it had that basement feel to it.
Yeah.
It was cramped. Every back issue was on top of each other. All the trade paperbacks were in bags. It was not inviting to anybody, whether you were a guy, a girl, a human, or a dog. Not appealing. I'm glad we're past that era. I hope.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I'm also glad we did that episode where we bitched about everything we hated about New York shops, and Brent complained about it an episode later.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that. We did get some people applauding St. Mark's afterwards, and even some people saying that they had good experiences, but nobody exactly differentiated from what we said. About it being not the friendliest or inviting place. They just happen to have better experiences than we did. So, go figure. St. Mark's, don't exactly miss it. Still don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk a little bit of a topic that Brent wanted to bring up on this episode, mainly exercise. Exercise is very important in the time of COVID-19. Everybody's got to make sure to get out and stretch. And, I bought Just Dance just to ensure that I'm at least exercising a little bit. I aerobics. I got myself a stationary bike that I've been using occasionally. Oh, and Robert Pattinson isn't working out as Batman. Not
that he's not doing a bad job. He's physically not working out during quarantine is basically what it is. So there's a GQ article that came out, I don't know, today, yesterday, whatever. So they did a interview and photo shoot from quarantine for Robert Pattinson. And he talks about being the Batman. And the gist of it is he's not working out during quarantine because, and the quote here is, probably out of context, but here's the quote in the article. If you're working out all the time, you're part of the problem. And that actors like James Dean didn't have to work out back in the day. And so there's some sort of unrealistic expectations on actors now to work out and bulk up for roles. And then I was like, okay, I agree. There is an unhealthy expectation on everybody to have a six-pack now. You look at James Dean or Jimmy Stewart, all those guys with their shirts off back in the days. Hell, even the bodybuilders couldn't cut a six-pack back in the day because you didn't have the nutrition technology, whatever the fuck is going on right now. Who knows? My point I wanted to make is I think you're missing the boat on who Bruce Wayne is. He is the guy who is like so driven to be the human point of perfection mentally and physically that he is driven himself to achieve the great heights he achieves in the comics, at least, right? You always see the thing of like, I don't know where this was from, a movie or animation or in books where he's like doing pull-ups staring at the Bat computer or just thinking, because that's like the way he can spend his time and still maintain physicality at the same time. And it's like, I think you're missing the boat here. Well, how you want to spend your time during quarantine is up to you, but when you talk like that, like, I don't know. I'm just going to piss off some fans. Now, I know he's wearing a bulky-ass suit, so it won't matter. But when you see Bruce Wayne as a skinny little nugget and then see Batman as a bulky guy, you're going to know that it's padding the same way, even though, like, you watch Shazam and you're like, that's a padded suit. You still looked at Zachary Levi during interviews, and that guy was still jacked. And I was like, at least you put it on, and even though they put more padding on you, like, that's not your fault, bro.
Well, okay, so first off, looking at the actual pictures from the GQ article, he doesn't exactly look like a skinny little nugget here. Like
Okay. So I'm going based off the Marvel attitude, I guess. Whereas like every guy that they get immediately gets like giant pecs,
right?
Bigger than the supermodels have boobs and stuff, and it's like enormous. Like even Anthony Mackie has maintained his Falcon physique to like a ridiculous level where he just looks puffy all the time. Like I watched the Apple TV movie The Banker, and it's buff Anthony Mackie in the 1940s, like chiseled and jacked in this 1940s suit, and it's like he fills it out so much he just stands out next to everybody else. Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I read excerpts of Pattinson's interview, and to use a wrestling term, the whole thing felt like a work.
Yeah,
maybe.
It honestly, it felt like he was doing like a little Andy Kaufman thing, where he was just screwing around, like trying to maintain, like, look at me, I'm all weird and serious, and
if you want to be weird and serious, don't do the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to maintain that attitude, don't do the Batman.
Hey, Brent, who just played the Joker?
Joaquin.
Yeah, exactly. Boom.
What's your point?
My point is, we just came off of one of the most eccentric actors in Hollywood who legitimately once tried to make everyone believe he had gone off the deep end and decided to quit acting to become a rapper. Be, the biggest villain in the Batman universe. And Batman's cuckoo bananas himself. We know this, okay? The man dresses up as a fucking bat.
Okay, all right. Wait, hold on. Batman's not crazy.
All right. Okay. Jamal, please, put me in my place.
Batman is not crazy. Okay,
He's motivated to the point of extinction. Right?
He is the best take on Batman, and may he rest in peace. Marty Pasco is Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
is where he's trying to keep a promise that he made, and at one point he was saying, maybe I could just give money to the police. They can get somebody else to do this. Why do I have to be the one that does this? Yeah. You have to remember, in most of Batman's origin stories, the reason why he became Batman was that the corruption in Gotham City ran from the mayor's office all the way down to the street sweepers. There wasn't anybody that was trustworthy except for him.
Yeah.
For a while, Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
So Batman does what he does. I think of Batman as being a person who he is about controlling the engagement, whether it's a conversation or a fight, because he's trying to keep what happened to him from happening to other people.
Yes.
So it doesn't make him crazy; it makes him motivated and dedicated.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that.
Even like the little light featherweight not welterweight, but yeah, like the featherweight UFC guys, they still got tons of definition, and that's all about control, the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. Absolutely. So it's not to say that you can just do jiu-jitsu and be about control and not have strength and definition. Like, that's not a true story.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that. If I get a Batman that's like Tim Sale-esque, if I get a Batman that is, statuesque, but also not like so jacked that it hurts,
right?
That I'm going to be okay. And I hope that that's what I get out of Pattinson. And I'm still fully convinced that I'm going to get a damn good acting experience out of Pattinson, because Pattinson is a much better actor than anybody gives him credit for. And I think that even though he is Kaufman-esque in real life, like they literally use those words in the GQ article. So you're right on that, Jamal. That he could turn out the type of performance that we want to see from a Batman actor, and we won't know until the movie's out. So
I think I think his refusal to bulk up is really just, as he said, it is a pushback against these unrealistic, ridiculous expectations. When Brent brought it up that he wanted to talk about this, I did actually read a bunch of pieces. And one guy pointed out that he had that gym obsession to look like movie characters. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because all the women in his life were like, "What are you doing? It doesn't look right. What's wrong with you?" While all his male friends were like, "Yo, man, you're an inspiration." And
I see the Kumal picture and I'm like, ugh.
His head is wrong for that body.
Yeah.
But just to finish my thought here, going from the more female perspective, I go with Ian saying that I would like to see something more like Tim Sale, because a lot of the heroes are they're male aspirational figures rather than the cheesecake for women. Because I'll admit it, I like looking at Chris Hemsworth when he plays Thor. He takes his shirt off. It's kind of great, but at the same time, I know there's a meme where they talk about Hugh Jackman, and they had him on Men's Health, and he was Wolverine, and he had his pecs out and his things. And then there was a women's magazine, also Hugh Jackman, and he was wearing a sweater, and he had a mixing bowl in front of him. And they're like, "Come on, let's be honest. Which one do the women want to date on this one?" And it was right. I preferred the Hugh Jackman in the sweater.
Yeah,
it was sexier to me.
I still prefer Parks and Recreation Pratt to Jurassic World Pratt or Guardians of the Galaxy Pratt in physique, and not completely flubber Pratt, which he was at times during the first and second seasons of Parks and Rec. But when he lost a little bit, but he was still, he's still a human. I highly appreciate that, because I'm thinking to myself, when the hell does a guy like him have time to work out on that ship? which is not a very big ship. You know, like the Guardians of the Galaxy should have a little bit of a pudge, in my opinion, because Star-Lord ain't going to the gym. Okay, that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, but he's got all that alien technology to suck out all the bad stuff that he eats.
Oh my God, no. That's called a toilet, okay?
Or he's eating so much weird alien food that his body's working overtime to digest it, and then ends up getting him shredded without any actual work.
Congratulations, Brent. You won the No Prize, okay? It'll be mailed to you immediately. Never.
I want that technology. That's what I want.
Brandon, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, a couple. Just a couple quick things. First off, you're going to get the shredded patents, and I guarantee it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because
after the backlash now.
Well, no, not even that, because
they're going to call him tomorrow.
Well, first off, he's in quarantine. They're not shooting, so they're not going to be shooting for a couple months.
Yeah.
And honestly, Hollywood now has the formula where they can get an actor from flabby to shredded in less than 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. Even if he's not working out, it's not that big of an issue for Pattinson.
Mm-hmm. I guess you just have to do like one shirtless scene, and they can check it off the box, and then you eat whatever you want after that.
That's what they did with Ben Affleck.
Exactly.
And here's the thing: they're gonna cut his water for like 24 to 40 hours before the shoot anyway. Mm-hmm. So he'll look extra shredded because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And you'll get that that shirtless Batman scene. I'm not worried about this at all, and I think because Pattinson is so kitschy in general, I think this was, like we were saying, this really was a pushback against like the whole idea of, you have to be this very austere, very studious, well-practiced actor to be Batman. You got to be intense all the time. You don't have to be intense all the time. You have to be an actor. That's what you're paid to do. You're paid to act for the film. You don't have to be the actual character.
Yeah. And somewhere, Christian Bale was reading this article in GQ and going, "Oh, good for you."
he's going, "Oh, fuck, you mean I could have done this?"
But I will say, though, the spaghetti thing blew my fucking mind.
So should we take bets on New Mutants actually coming out in theaters ever, comboed with Ezra Miller still remaining the Flash in a movie that does come out?
Brent, there is no New Mutants movie.
Yeah, it's all been.
They keep talking about it.
Hey,
it's just cut scenes from Dark Phoenix.
Arya did something for one summer. I don't know.
There is a war within Walter Bossing say.
First off, job well done. You get all the stars. And second off, the way I put it on, I think it might have been when Mario Muscar posted it on Facebook. I'm like, man, these New Mutants have been in a can so long, they're old mutants already. Like, just let it go. Release it to frickin' Disney Plus. Get it over with.
It's just a fever dream from a bunch of Fox executives sitting around smoking meth.
God, Sienkiewicz somewhere is dying.
God, it's like remember tennis balls used to come in canisters that were vacuum sealed?
Yep.
That's this fucking movie right here. Just pop it and there you go. Let it be free.
Schrodinger's mutants. They exist and they don't exist.
I think it's actually stuck in a pneumatic tube somewhere. Like they finished the print and they put it in one of those mail tubes, and it's just stuck in the middle of one because no one knows how to frickin' open those things anymore.
Some giant Rube Goldberg device here. Dun 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 dun. It's stuck somewhere over there.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is like the 8th release date or something it's had. I don't know.
August now. It's insane, and man, I cannot wait to go back to a movie theater, but I'm in the same boat as you, Jamal. I think it's going to be quite some time for me. I think.
Oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere near, not anytime soon.
Yeah, and I feel bad for places like Alamo Drafthouse that make their money off of beer and food and the movie experience, because I think they're just going to be, even if they do wind up reopening, mostly movies and that's it, because there's only so many foods you can serve in an atmosphere like that.
Yeah.
They actually sent a survey around asking what people would be comfortable with going back to Alamo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, would you be okay with a limited menu?
Yeah.
Do you want spaces between the seats? I mostly just responded. I was like, as long as there isn't like a huge fucking crowd in the bar, like just kick people out, I think I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. If they do spacing between people and they actually, do every other row and stuff like that, then it may be worth it in the end. But it's gonna be a real learning curve. But hey, I'm still hoping that the rumor going around that Amazon is buying AMC theaters is actually true, because that's going to be really interesting.
Oh, I got some beef though with that also.
I'm sure you do, man. Go ahead, spill.
Well, not so much with Amazon buying AMC, but just AMC in general. I believe with them showing their whole entire ass for
the Universal stuff.
Universal stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Universal should have just put Fast 9 on VOD the very next day as like, fuck you.
Yeah.
$25 to buy.
Honestly, I would have bought it because
I would have bought it.
I would have been in Universal's camp for this one because they're being smart. You have a movie ready to go in the can, just put it out there.
Yeah.
So people have something. To do. You're actually being magnanimous in this instance where you're actually giving something to the people so they can enjoy during this really shitty time. Yeah. And AMC's like, well, fuck your fun. I want my money.
I can tell you that 48 hours where we had Trolls World Tour rented for $20.
Yeah.
My kids watched it like at least 8 times.
Yeah. They made more money off of that than they probably would have made in the theaters. And
the same thing's going to happen with Scoob.
Yes, yeah. Scoob's coming out Friday, I think. Yeah, that's it. I mean, hell, I may even rent Scoob, to be honest, because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. But part of me still thinks, I mean, and bringing it back to comics for a minute, and we can pretty much end on this is that I'm still somewhat convinced that there's going to come a time where they're not going to be able to delay Wonder Woman and Black Widow any longer. And it's going to be in theaters and VOD, like, simultaneously.
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
As long as they're not in production for the other stuff still, they can delay those movies as much as they want.
But they're going back into production for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, they are?
Are they?
Yes.
The Czech Republic said that they could start filming again.
Excellent. Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. But I mean,
but yeah, I'm sure all those TV shows are lined up with those movie releases exactly. Mm-hmm. So in such a way that we're probably going to get delays of all the Disney Plus TV content, because I'm sure they were supposed to weave in and out into each other. Like that's Feige's whole master plan is that you got to go see every movie because there's a little stinger on the end of every one for the next one.
But Black Widow was supposed to come out in May, and Falcon Winter Soldier wasn't supposed to come out until September.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It could still come out in September, but if there is a I don't know, teaser, stinger, whatever, maybe they gotta time that release somehow.
Disney Plus was hurting for content. There was a whole article that came out about that.
Yeah.
Which is why, again, I will not be surprised if come August we suddenly get that blockbuster news that Black Widow is coming out on Disney Plus.
Come on. They're releasing Hamilton in July.
Yes, they are. And I will watch it 7 times, even though I've seen it 3 times twice on Broadway and once in Chicago. I don't give a shit. I'm going to watch it again.
That's going to be my wife's new obsession is that because she listened to the soundtrack like weeks on end before and after we saw it when it came on tour here in Orlando.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it. I've been wanting to see it for years.
Oh, you're going to love it, man.
Oh, it's amazing.
Because there's little bits that are in the show that are not on the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Are they going to say fuck on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Probably. Are they?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
They're not showing that girl's ass in Splash.
Oh,
Why would they say fuck?
No, if they censor Hamilton, that's going to be a mistake.
I don't think they're... Wait, where is the word fuck even in Hamilton? There's just fuck and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's not a lot of...
I don't know. I read somewhere that there's fucks. I've only seen it once. I haven't listened to the soundtrack, so...
If there are, then there's PG-13 amounts of fucks. Like, there might be, 1 or 2. and that's about it.
Yeah,
see,
the one.
All right, guys. I think that's basically about it. I mean, anybody else got anything else they want to bring up real quick before we wrap up?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool.
I just found a breakdown of all the swearing in Hamilton.
Oh shit.
Jeez.
There is fuck and motherfucking, but also fuck and who the fuck. And also a lot of damn, goddamn,
All right.
shit and whore.
So
I wasn't concerned about the other ones. It's the F one that Disney seems real concerned with.
Where's the F-bomb at?
I don't know. I'm just
well, I mean, there's one. There's sit down, John. You fat motherfucker.
That mother, it cuts out right.
I think in the show it doesn't actually cut out. It doesn't cut out.
Mine did.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I remember where fuck was.
Where?
It's from the Yorktown. Hercules Mulligan.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Well, whatever. We'll see.
Spoilers,
What they do.
Jamal. We're telling you where the fucks are.
All right.
It's good for Katie.
Exactly. Jamal, tell everyone where they can find your wares.
You can find me everywhere. Just look up Jamal Igle, Igle, on the interwebs. I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook. I have a couple of pages coming out in Teen Titans Go to Camp.
Oh, wow.
I did a 3-page sequence.
Delightful.
So
I'm not sure that'll make the cut, my friend. I'm sorry.
So
Three pages.
3 pages. So I've got that. Like I said, I just finished White. That'll be coming out later this year at some point, and I'm starting on the Wrong Earth season 2 this week, actually. So that'll probably be coming out, I think, either later this year or early 2021.
Nice. And it's Jamal Igle Artist with underscores in between the words on Instagram.
Yes, it is.
Since you brought that back. Awesome. And thanks for coming on, man. It's been way too long since we've talked.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Chris, where can they find you?
Well, I mean, yes, at Engadget, because those are the people that pay my salary.
Yes.
But, yeah, just, at Lampbane on Twitter if you want to annoy me and tell me I'm an idiot. And then let me mute you. It's great.
And then just go to the official Twitter, right? And we can annoy you there, too?
No.
The 2 Twitters are no longer a thing?
No.
I still have the other Twitter. I just don't care.
Exactly. It's double the pleasure, double the fun.
It has its own column in TweetDeck, but it's like off to the side, so I have to scroll to look at it.
Brandon, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Dabadon anywhere on the social medias. That's pretty much it right now. Follow my co-host whenever we record. He actually just released he did a video for for a contingency of G.I. Joe cosplayers. Actually, which had official voice over by the original Cobra Commander from the cartoon.
That's cool.
Wow.
So follow him at @Baron. That's really about it.
Awesome. And Casina?
You can find me on Twitter at NightwingBK with a K on both ends. And most importantly, you can find me over at the BK's Bullets Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just got to search. I'm right there. We're also cross-posting those videos on the Comic Timing Facebook page, which you should also like if you don't already like it. There's great stuff there. You can interact with me and Ian. But if you want the first run, quality BK's Bullet stuff, subscribe to YouTube, like that Facebook page.
Yeah, and I'm correcting you already. Your Twitter handle is @CasinaB.
Oh, I thought it was back. Whatever. Twitter's just a retweet profile for me.
Yeah, I know.
Social media maven there.
Exactly. And for anybody who hasn't checked it out yet, listen to Comic Geek Speak episode 1769. We did a micro spotlight on the Lifeline tablet saga of Amazing Spider-Man, issues 68 through 75. And it was the first time I ever read it, and it is freaking fantastic. And we had on Dan Gavazdin of the Amazing Spider Talk podcast on that episode to join in on it. And Dan is a hoot and a holler, and it was an excellent episode. So if you're going to check out any of my recent Comic Geek Speak stuff, that's where I would point you to specifically. Episode 1769 over at comicgeekspeak.com. And you can find me at I_am_sci-fi on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else, basically. It's what I roll with. So that's that with that. All right, and the email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. Facebook.com/Comic Timing, once again, for any future comic book conversation or otherwise from these hosts. I'll also direct you over to the Comic Geek Speak supergroup, as a lot of the people here post in that as well. So you can go ahead and head over to Facebook and search for that and join that up if you haven't already done so. We're proud members of the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com and the League of Comic Book Podcasts over at comicbooknoise.com/league. So once again, for Jamal, for Brent, for Chris, and for Brandon, I'm Ian, reminding everybody out there that there's always time for comics. Now go read some. You're stuck inside anyway. You there? Did I lose you?
Deep in thought.
Dang it. I was so close.
There goes your expert opinion.
No! Come back out of the light, Jamal.
Don't go too far.
Okay,
You back?
I think I'm back. All right, there we go. Every so often, every couple of hours, it like the screen's shut down and everything, all the windows closed, and I gotta like reopen it. It's a security thing.
Delightful.
Yeah.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Please understand. Okay.
Nice.
All right.
And that is that. Whew. Good job, gentlemen. That was awesome.
I have one question for Jamal.
Yes.
Do I have to read the Dragonfly Man miniseries to understand Wrong Earth Volume 2?
You know what? I don't know yet.
I just want to do the comic geek voice.
Is there a reason why in issue 3 his left leg was colored forest green, but in every other issue it is colored lime green?
Hey, I will have you know, I was letting Jamal know about comicsology errors in the early days.
Oh God!
Wrong Earth 1 or 2. Some weird shit going on.